The Heretic Order. Chapter 8. Florence raised her rifle and looked through the scope.
They're not vampires, that's for sure.
What are they doing?
Harry asked. He tried to mime their strange stick-swinging action. Florence adjusted her scope.
2 men swinging metal sticks, 2 men holding bags.
What the hell? Are they armed?
Lily asked.
I don't think so,
Harry said. He handed the binoculars to Lily. James rustled through his rucksack and pulled out a pair of binoculars. The knights looked like train spotters.
They're playing golf,
James said.
Huh, weird.
Lily said. She looked at a map.
It'll be getting dark soon. They must be close to shelter. Take the next left, up there.
She pointed. Screwdriver drove 20 meters, then turned left. They arrived at a well-maintained concrete and glass building with a bridge that spanned a small pond to get to the entrance. There was no sign of any guards or fortifications. Florence took point and walked over the wooden bridge. Screwdriver kept the engine running. She cupped her hands around her eyes and looked through the building's tinted glass front door. An attractive young woman sat at a reception desk and looked out to the knights. She smiled when she saw Florence and looked down at her desk. A small steel box above the door buzzed.
All weapons must be deposited before entry,
The receptionist said. Florence knocked the door with her knuckle. It was deceptively thick and bullet-resistant. She turned round at the knights behind cover, watching her back. Screwdriver stood in the middle of the driveway like he was begging to be shot. She walked back over the bridge and hunkered down with the knights.
How long until sunset?
Florence asked. James looked at his watch.
2 hours, maybe less.
Any chance we can make it to the university by then?
Harry asked.
Zilch.
Lily replied. Lily looked through a window to a group of people sat around drinking wine and laughing. Their clothes were bright, clean and colourful. The men wore polo shirts with red, blue or green trousers. The women all wore jumpers tied around their necks. A waiter brought them a bottle of something.
This place is clearly secure. Give them your weapons,
The Screwdriver said.
I don't like it. Why is this place not on Owen's map? Have you heard of these guys, Screwdriver?
Lily asked.
Nobody tells me anything.
Screwdriver replied.
Shit, you're the team leader, Flo. We'll back your decision.
Lily said. Florence shot Lily a glare, then peered inside the building and at the people living like the outbreak never happened. She didn't like it, her subconscious screamed.
We don't have a choice. Leave the rifles with the car in case we need to retreat.
Florence said. She crossed the bridge with the rest of her team behind, banged on the door and gave the receptionist a thumbs up. Screwdriver sprinted back to the car and pulled out the keys. The knights followed him and deposited their rifles on the back seat, then came back to the door.
Okay, we want to come in.
She said. A knee-high metal drawer opened on a wall next to the door.
Please place all weapons in the receptacle. You will be searched upon entry,
The receptionist said. The knights dropped their pistols, melee weapons and silver nitrate grenades into the drawer. It snapped shut and the glass doors opened. A rush of cool air flooded out and banished the humid summer evening air. The knight stepped inside and immediately noticed everything was pristine. The floor shined to a mirror finish. Lily felt bad walking on it in her muddy boots.
Welcome to the bunker on the 18th hole. Jeremy here will take you through this door to decontamination. Place all your belongings into the grey boxes provided,
The receptionist said. A man in crisp grey trousers and a white Oxford shirt held a black submachine gun against his chest. His face was chiselled and amplified by his sprezzatura stubble. He pointed the newcomers towards a stainless steel door. Harry looked past the guard to the beautiful people in the restaurant enjoying their wine. A woman in a pink knitted jumper stared at him while trying to not make it obvious. He caught her eye and smiled. She smirked but caught her mouth before it became a smile. Clearly she was trained in the art of poise. James could feel heat coming from Florence as she imagined all the ways she could kill the man in the grey trousers. Harry pushed through the door into a room with rows of cubicles on each wall.
Ladies to the left, gentlemen to the right,
The guard said. When they were in the room, the guard locked the door and quickly turned around to observe the group of teenagers. Lily took the first cubicle. She locked the door, then removed her clothes. A sign pointed down to a laundry chute, and she let her combat shirt and trousers fall into the shiny metal opening. She held her body armor and hesitated. She looked at the sign above the chute.
Please place all clothing and items into the chute for decontamination. All possessions will be returned. Management will not be liable for missing possessions.
Lily sighed, then let the heavy vest fall. The chute closed, and she was hit with warm water from above. Shock gave way to calm under the warm, cleansing stream. The first shower she had in 3 days. She squeezed soap from a dispenser and washed. A panel opened, and inside was a soft grey towel. Lily held the warm cotton to her face and inhaled a beautiful smell of jasmine detergent. She rubbed all over and threw it back into the hole in the wall. Her worries about the untouched enclave washed away with the last of the soapy water down the drain. A panel popped open in the wall. She looked inside and saw a small pile of clothes. There was a pair of white pants and a bra, which looked a little too big, but would do regardless. She put on her underwear, then pulled on some light pink socks. Lily put on a pair of tan chinos and a pink polo shirt. She turned around and looked into the mirror on the back of the cubicle door, and she didn't recognize herself. It was hard to feel feminine in Nomex combat fatigues, but now she looked good. No, she looked great. She ran her fingers through her hair and brushed it back. Lily came out of the cubicle and saw Harry trying on shoes. He was dressed the same, but his polo was navy blue. He looked up at her. Then his eyes darted away. There were boxes of loafers by a row of stools, and Lily grabbed a pair. The guard led them through to the next room. It was a hallway with a row of chairs on the wall to the right. At the end of the hall, a steel door glistened. Opposite the chairs were 2 wooden doors. A man in white medical scrubs came from the rooms with the wooden doors and smiled at the knights.
Please sit,
the guard said. When the group took their seats, he left, and they heard the door bolt from the other side. The older man gestured Lily to come forward, and he opened a door for her. The younger man gestured to Florence. They went inside the examination rooms.
"I'm Dr. Van Buren. What is your name?"
he asked. His hair was white but thick and parted to one side with care. His voice had a rich timbre.
Lily Davis.
"All right, Lily. A nice, easy one to start. Have you been into contact with any type Bs?"
he asked.
We killed a flyer yesterday, a big fat one. It didn't bite us, though,
she replied. She gave a thin smile. Her wet hair lay flat, so she brushed her hand through it and tussled for some much-needed volume. The doctor raised his right brow.
"Have you ever had any infectious diseases, be it viral, bacterial, or parasitic?"
No, we've never had an outbreak of anything. Not in my lifetime, anyway.
"Have you been within 50 miles of Torness Nuclear Power Station?"
Where is that?
"Scotland."
No, I have never been over the wall.
Lily started to feel the tedium of his questions. The doctor wrote something in his notepad and tapped a pen against his lips.
"Are you currently on any medication?"
Lily looked at the floor. She leaned towards the doctor.
I'm currently taking valerian root. Every now and then I take St. John's wort or lemon balm when I'm feeling low.
"Is the valerian for sleep issues?"
No, it's for my nervous disposition. I guess that's the best way to put it.
The doctor looked up and tapped his lips with a pen.
It really helps,
Lily added. The doctor reached into his pocket and pulled out a metal slip filled with small pink tablets. He placed them in front of Lily.
"Wean yourself off the valerian and take these, 1 a day. Everyone is on them here. Let me know when you need more."
What are they?
"Everyone takes them. It makes life much easier."
The 2 doctors interviewed everyone in the group. When Harry and James came out from their interviews, they were lost in thought like Lily and Florence. They had all received a cursory psychological evaluation and were less than thrilled with results. The doctors interviewed Screwdriver for the longest time. Lily assumed, due to his gaunt look, they wanted to make sure he had no diseases. For all she knew, he might. When the doctors seemed satisfied, they opened the last door, the steel door, and led the knights out the room. Lily froze as she saw an eddy punching the hallway window in front of her. She had never seen a live one. This eddy was huge, its face a rotten green and its fists now covered in fetid black blood. The knight stared at the creature in silence. The old doctor looked up from his clipboard, glanced over his reading glasses at the vampire and tutted.
Are we safe?
Lily asked. The doctor laughed.
"This place was built to survive nuclear obliteration. Those big green idiots can't get in,"
he replied. Florence stood almost face to face with the eddy. She studied the beast and turned her head to the older doctor.
Can I kill it tomorrow?
She asked. The doctor shrugged.
"Sure, it lives in the old groundskeeper cabin."
Florence smiled at the vampire and flicked the glass like she was taunting a shark at an aquarium. She then caught up to the group. They walked down a corridor to the reception area. They were met by the receptionist, who smiled at the group. The doctor handed them over without saying goodbye.
Hello, I'm Annika. I'll give you the tour.
She said. Annika turned around to face the reception desk.
Behind me is the front door. This will unlock at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. You can walk the ground or schedule a lesson with Richard, our resident pro. To our right is the bar. Here you can buy drinks and snacks. To our left are offices and meeting rooms. Upstairs are the members' rooms. Downstairs are the staff rooms, storage and the kitchen.
Annika took them down 2 flights of stairs and down a long hallway. It wasn't as clean down in the bowels of the building. Stacks of dirty bedding seemed to signpost every corner. Pipes snaked the walls and ceiling, covered in a thick layer of dust.
Before the outbreak, the members' bedrooms were down here. Air filtration, radiation monitors, all surplus to requirement. There is plenty of room down here, for us staff and visitors too. You'll find the rooms down here are quite comfortable.
Her monologue seemed rehearsed somehow.
Take this room. There are 4 beds and a dining table. You can have food delivered to your room or eat upstairs in the staff dining room. Doors are locked at midnight for your safety.
Annika said. Screwdriver ran into the room and buried his head into a crisp white pillow. The room didn't have the cosy charm of the apprentice dorms, but it was a 5-star hotel compared to the muddy warren they slept last night. They ate a simple dinner of beans and potatoes. Lily savoured the saltiness of the beans. Salt was a luxury at the Abbey. James finished his food and wiped his knife on a napkin. He scratched a crucifix above the door, then dropped the knife on his empty plate. While the others relaxed on their beds, he filled the bathroom sink and began sanctifying the water to consecrate the room. Old habits and all that. Florence shook her head and exchanged glances with Harry. He didn't mirror her contempt. Something wasn't right about these people, and a little divine help couldn't hurt. The knights wondered what the day ahead would bring. The harsh fluorescent white light changed to a dim orange glow, so slowly Lily didn't notice. The lights dimmed until only the corners of the room were lit. Lily got up and used the bathroom. She wobbled as she stood to full height and her head swam.
Got up too quick.
She tried the room door as she passed. It was still locked. It must have been early, but it was impossible to tell without windows. Lily thought nothing of it and got back into bed.
Jesus, my head.
She almost missed the bed as she fell. The orange LEDs gradually turned white. Lily turned in her bed to see Harry staring at the ceiling. He didn't know where he was as he awoke. His eyes opened wide in confusion. Realization set in, and he yawned.
Morning, Lil.
2 bangs came from the door, then 2 more with matching cadence. Lily peered out from her Egyptian cotton nest. Florence was knocking. There was no answer.
What time is it?
James asked.
I don't know, no clocks anywhere.
Florence replied, and a stainless steel box buzzed on the wall by the door. The electronic hiss caused the knights to wince. Can, Screwdriver approach the door? The voice asked. He staggered to the door. It opened, and a guard entered the room with his pistol at full draw. A second guard came around and grabbed Screwdriver. They left and slammed the door shut. Florence slapped her hands to her knees and got up off her bed. She fell forward and vomited.
What the hell?
She said, wiping chunks from her cheek.
Are we drugged?
Harry asked as he squinted at the lights above.
I feel like the first time I smoked indica.
I feel fine. A little tired, I guess.
James said. Florence stared at the door, then to Lily. She ran her trembling hand through her dark brown hair. She studied it for a moment, then let it fall into her lap.
Where are they taking him?
Harry asked. He mouthed the words in an exaggerated manner, as if he was learning to use his jaw for the first time.
I knew it was too good to be true,
James said.
When they come back, we need to get out of here.
Florence said.
Wait, maybe the medical tests found something about Screwdriver. It could be contagious, and they are quarantining him.
Harry said. Florence clenched a ball of her duvet, then bit down into it for a moment. She threw it across the room and James grabbed it out of the air.
Bullshit, no CBRN gear.
Florence replied. Lily tried to focus but couldn't reduce the amount of people in the room to the correct amount.
Did you get any ideas what's going on here? Did the doctors say anything about you? Medically, I mean?
Lily asked. Florence looked around the room for anything that could be used as a weapon and smiled to Lily.
Mild psychopathy, he called it. He put me into this big white machine and scanned my brain, made me watch a 5-minute video of a woman trying to fight off a skulker. He said my brainwaves were the same as someone watching a sunset.
Florence said.
Shit, that's kind of scary.
Harry said.
Wait, did he give you some pills too?
James said.
I flushed mine. I'm guessing you didn't.
The apprentices pulled the boxes from their pockets, then threw them across the room. Harry flipped a duvet off a bed and tried to dismantle the frame. Florence put her hand out to Lily, and Lily grabbed it and squeezed. Florence turned her head and vomited onto the floor. James and Harry tried to give her privacy. With nowhere to go other than the bathroom, they decided to go and sit in the bathroom.
I'm sorry, I'm such a freak, Lily,
Florence said, unusually vulnerable thanks to the psychoactive medication. Lily let go of Florence's hand and hugged her.
You're my best friend, Florence. So what if you're a bit different? You're good at killing. That's not such a bad thing these days.
Lily replied. When the boys came out the bathroom, Florence threw 2 steel bed legs, and they caught them mid-air.
We can do this, they're fucking amateurs,
Florence said.
They have guns, I don't like our chances.
James said.
The lead guard entered the room at full draw. If I stay close to the wall, I can grab the pistol.
Florence said.
Are you 100% sure? I mean, are we misunderstanding what is going on here?
James asked.
Pretty sure?
Jesus.
Harry said. Lily Davis, please approach the door. The apprentices jumped as the intercom buzzed. So that was it. Lily was the sacrificial lamb. Florence took her position at the wall and Lily approached the door. Harry and James tried to look casual as they sat on a bed. The black muzzle came past the door and Florence reached out. The guard pulled the trigger, she squeezed and the slide stuck open, rendering the pistol unloaded. In an instant she pushed the pistol towards him, threw his thumbs, then ripped it back towards her. She racked the slide and raised the pistol. She didn't notice the second guard unholster his weapon. Florence put 2 rounds into the point man's chest. The other guard caught one in the stomach and fired his pistol into the room. The magazine emptied in 2 seconds, spraying down plaster from the ceiling. It had been modified to fire full auto. Florence kept firing as the first guard fell forward on top of her. She fell backwards into the room. Lily turned her head away from the deafening noise, but too late her ears were momentarily useless. She could only hear a high-pitched whistle. Harry was already on top of the guard, still holding Florence, and he was raining down blows with his fists. James stamped down on his neck with a sickening crunch. Lily looked out into the hallway at the guard lying on the floor. He held his stomach, and blood sprayed out with arterial pressure. As her hearing came back, she realized Florence was screaming. Lily grabbed the pistol and 2 magazines from the guard in the hall and came back into the room. Florence held her hands to her left eye. Blood flowed between her fingers. She writhed on the floor and kicked herself away from the body lying on top of her.
My eye, my fucking eye,
she screamed. Harry pulled her hands away from the wound and he fell backwards. James stood upright and held his head in shock.
Fuck, her eye,
James said. Florence turned over and crawled towards the first dead guard and punched him in the jaw.
Flo.
Lily shouted.
I think I'm fine, we need to go.
She slid around in the guard blood as she tried to stand up. Lily and Harry looked at each other in panic. James grabbed the pistol off the dead body and reached down, then slipped out 2 magazines from his belt. Harry helped Florence off the ground. The bleeding was minimal, but who knows how much internal damage had been done. The hallway was empty. They reached the stairs and Harry dropped to his stomach, then peeked up the stairwell. A flashbang bounced in front of his face, and acting on pure instinct, he flicked his arm and batted it behind him down the hall. The flash didn't get them, but the bang certainly did. The flashbang was followed by gunfire. Fleck's linoleum bounced up as bullets landed in front of his face. In frantic panic, he shuffled back and bumped into the knights behind him. They retreated from the stairs and tried one of the doors in the hallway. Locked. They tried another door. It opened and piled in. They forgot about the armed guards outside when they saw the depravity in that room. A man in a white chef's outfit was humming a merry tune while cutting strips of meat from the disemboweled corpse of Screwdriver. Another chef took the meat and tossed it into flour, then put it in a large wok where it sizzled with wild mushrooms. 2 more chefs were busy peeling and chopping vegetables. After a few moments, the catering team looked up, and the 2 groups had a wordless acknowledgement of fate. Lily and James fired at the cannibals. A headshot dropped the chef by the wok, and as he fell, he landed on the wok handle and flung hot oil at a woman preparing the sauce. She screamed until a shot, center of mass, blew out her heart and spine. Lily's gun didn't fire, it was jammed. She pulled the side and flicked out the casing. The bullet that hit Florence was a misfire. It barely had enough pressure to leave the barrel. Florence would never know how lucky she was that day. Lily pushed the gun out and fired at a stainless steel cabinet. A tall, blonde chef fell forward, clutching his stomach. Harry grabbed a large knife. He dispatched the chef with the stomach wound by thrusting the knife into the back of his neck. The knights moved through the kitchen, and James put rounds into the bodies. At the back of the kitchen was a large pantry. Their gear was in plastic boxes on steel shelving units. The knights hurried to take off their clothes and put on their Nomex fatigues. They grabbed their plate carriers and threw them over their heads and cinched them down. Finally, securing their helmets, they were ready for war. Lily opened her individual first aid kit and grabbed an eye shield. She unwrapped the orange plastic lens, being careful not to touch the center. She held the shield against what was left of the eye to stop contamination of the wound. She hadn't had time to look at the wound until now, and she didn't understand how Florence was walking. Lily held the soft pad of a bandage against the eye, then wrapped the rest around Florence's head, then tied it off. Florence managed a quick smile, then grabbed her helmet. She winced as she buckled it tight. They dropped the guards' weapons and replaced them with their service pistols. Harry slapped Lily and James on their helmets for good luck. He decided against hitting Florence. She looked like a zombie, and he was worried her brains would spill out. They peeked around the kitchen door. The guards had barricaded the top of the stairs. The knights were trapped. They turned right down the hall and tried the other end, another staircase. There was no way it was clear at the top. Florence took out a silver nitrate grenade, pulled the pin, then threw it up the stairs. It bounced off the wall to get it around the turn. Screams and coughing followed the explosion. Before the guards could lift their weapons, the knights emerged from a cloud of glistening silver smoke and systematically put down targets. Harry and James grabbed a gun each and as many magazines as they could carry. When they reached the top of the staircase, a round hit the wall next to the knights and ricocheted. A middle-aged man in a burgundy suit held out a gold pistol and was pulling the trigger. He looked at the weapon, confused why it wasn't working. Like the guard's pistol, this gun had jammed. Florence walked up to him while the others found cover and aimed at doorways and corners. She lowered his pistol with her free hand, raised her gun, and emptied a burst into his chest. A further set of stairs led to a large, windowless room in the underground section of the complex. It was decorated in Rococo style, with brilliant white walls gilt with gold. Ostentatious mirrors made up for the lack of windows. Light bounced around the room, making it look significantly larger. Florence stumbled on the top step and Lily grabbed her. When she looked up, she could see a ballroom full of people dressed in white tie attire sat at tables. The diners stared at the knights in silence. The knights rushed past the tables full of disappointed-looking people. Lily looked up at the faces of the diners and felt sicker than the first time she saw a skulker up close.
Were they going to eat us?
Harry asked. He coughed and clicked his jaw. His tongue was suddenly sour. James patted his back.
Keep moving, mate.
The knights didn't have enough ammunition for everyone in the room. They ran out the dining room, knocking over a waiter carrying a bucket of champagne, and up a grand staircase made of honed Carrara marble. Their boots squeaked on the polished floor. It was deafening. Daylight cascaded in from outside. They were above ground and the building seemed empty. In the wild, predators will call off the hunt if it seems more effort than it is worth. The knights had certainly dulled the cannibals' appetites. The clock above reception read 3 in the afternoon. They had time to get to the university if they hurried. Harry and Florence went out to the Land Rover and grabbed their rifles. Harry smashed the window of a nearby Mercedes SUV and released the handbrake. They pushed the car into the large blast-proof doorway, and Florence shot out the tires with her pistol. Lily climbed out the doorway, over the bonnet, and grabbed a thermite grenade from the Land Rover. She pulled the pin and dropped it into the Mercedes. Blinding white light erupted in sparks, and the seats caught fire. In less than an hour, the vehicle would be 2 tons of unmovable metal. The glass doors tried to close but bounced off the burning car. Annika watched from reception and ate a handful of pills. Mascara ran down her cheeks and she smiled and waved to the knights.